On a related topic, so there are spaces that I think sometimes have, ghosts and spirits that have a presence that are tied to that space.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I learned was that ghosts also have the ability to move around and follow people, which I think is new information. A lot of people don't realize that ghosts are mobile. They think, oh, a place is haunted, and they don't necessarily think, oh, well, that ghost can then go to a different state or where their grave is or whatever. So what do you do if you feel like you are being pursued or followed by a ghost that is not tied to a space, but just is rather drawn to you as a person?
That's a really excellent question, because I've encountered this about twice. And there was an incident where, people like to go and ghost hunt, and that's fine. That's wonderful. But once in a while, they will be followed home.
Right.
And I've
Be careful what you hunt.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's much like the way, again, if you're in a dream and you see someone that has awareness of you in that dream,
Right.
an interaction, or they see you're a bright light, they're attracted to that. And so they'll kind of stick to you energetically. And they kind of want what you have. They can communicate with you, or they think they can. And so they'll stick with you. Personal experience I've had one follow me home and was just, knocking things over everywhere. But I needed to help cross that ghost over.
Yeah.
So people that like to agitate or start to get activity will call in ghosts, and then the ghost's like, oh yeah, you want to play? I'll show you how to play.
Right.
So it's much like people, if you look at why some people are stopped and others aren't. And clairvoyantly, when I do a lot of these sessions, I have to look at the karma between those two souls. So one guy I had this as a client, he came to me with this problem, and you can't really say this to the norm of people, like I have a ghost and I need to get it detached.
Right.
So I took a look and I saw that long ago this was an old feud, different bodies, but nevertheless they did have unfinished business. And then and the ghost wanted to make a point of, hey, you wronged me. And he was like, oh, I guess, and he acknowledged it, and both were healed and set free. So he could move on with his life, and the ghost was released.
Great. Oh, that's fascinating. I had never thought about that being a karmic issue. So it could be just that they're attracted to someone because they can be sensed by that person, or they have a bright light, or because there's some kind of past life history, essentially.
And oftentimes also to feed off of people's energy. Sometimes people are very, we don't all pay attention to what we have, and some people want it and they'll take it, whether energy, money, whatever. So again, it's they're a human consciousness. So whenever you encounter a ghost, you can try to see, where are they coming from? Are they from a mentality of pure survival? Are they very intellectual? Are they just mean? So they're people. They don't have bodies. That's basically the only difference.
It's interesting you bring up the idea of feeding off energy, because that's something I learned recently too, that ghosts do, they don't have their own energy naturally, and so they need to get it from somewhere, and the main source is people. One area or time that they do that is when you're asleep, because I think you're vulnerable when you sleep. How do you recommend kind of protecting yourself from that, specifically when you're going to bed, for example?
Well, that's usually a ghost. When you're not there, your body has very little energy. So that does happen, but it not necessarily it has to happen. It's more when you're awake that they generate a lot of emotional energy. If you're afraid at night, what I like to do is just have a bubble of energy. And make it real. It's not your imagination. It's not fake. It's just you're putting your intention of a nice bubble around you at a soft color, a very safe color. Another thing you can do is put a picture up, like a mental image picture. If you were to imagine that you're in your body. I've seen this done before, where I've had myself, where I would just be going off to sleep and I could feel, okay, here they come. Yeah. But I would show, I'm in my body, you can't get in here, and nothing would happen.
Oh, interesting.
If you have crystals, some people love crystals, but basically whatever external thing you're using is to give you comfort. When you're secure, you're comfortable, you're not as vulnerable. When you're scared, you're vulnerable. And I think I still get spooked,
Yeah.
Even though this is normal for me, but that's anything that makes you calm, anything that makes you feel powerful, use it. There's no rules there.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's really good advice too about not letting fear take over, because that's in a sense the worst thing that you can do, even though that is, I think, a very natural response.
Yeah. Oh, and it does happen. It
Yeah.
does happen. But there are beings out there that they love to do that. They love to get you into fear. And so, you know, I've had situations where I was so scared one time encountering what I was encountering, and I decided to get mad. I'm like, doggone it, no, I'm sick of this. And it seemed to really work. So if you can remember, I mean, it's terrifying in some spots.
Yeah.
You have the feeling, just try to get powerful. Wait a minute, I'm a human too, but I have a body. That's the only difference.
Right.
You know?
Okay, that's great
Yeah.
advice. And then one other thing I wanted to bring up is why are some places more haunted or have more paranormal activity than other places? Because I think that is something where there are certain cities, regions, homes where there is more than one ghost, for example, that is residing there. So why is that? Do you think?
What I found in my experience is, there's no formula to it other than when you have an area that has a tremendous amount of energy, psychic energy, meaning that, you know, if you were to reflect back on your life of the you know, a really not happy time you had at a restaurant, okay, that psychic energy will be at that restaurant too. Or you have the best time of your life, and that's the energy, the psychic energy that's in that space as well. But oftentimes when you have a lot of hauntings is the active areas, meaning cemeteries, morgues, they're not haunted usually because, you know, it's not about the body. It happens, but it's not
very common.
What people will do is when they leave their body, they'll go somewhere familiar. So, like I said, with homes, you know, these people spend almost 100 years of their life in the same area. They had all their life experience around that home. Others, there's saloons where you might notice there was a lot of what we call kind of a transmedium activity, where people are drinking. And they start bringing in, there's a reason why they call it spirits, wine and spirits.
Oh, interesting.
It attracts different kinds of energies.
Yeah.
You know, like I found, you know, sometimes with whiskey, like in the Wild West, it was a very aggressive energy, very psychic energy, and, you know, things happened. And they weren't like today where, you know, we have laws in effect, but you have a lot of human conflict oftentimes, or disagreements. Sometimes, you know, a lot of hospitals, because they have a lot of people coming in and out. The babies are being born and people are leaving, so you have that psychic residue as well. So the more psychic residue you have, meaning experiences and you know, you can feel the energy, like a kinesthetic kind of a feeling to it, the more activity you're going to have.
Okay.
So, and you might notice in areas of great tragedy, for instance, there will be the haunting meaning that you will have very aggressive behavior. People are getting hurt, people are, you know, it's such a low vibration and people are in a lot of pain.
Right.
Then there's, you know, the activity where it can be kind of fun, you know, so there's many different ways to entertain yourself.
Yeah. I do find it very interesting how ghosts can haunt for centuries, and that time is not the same once you've crossed over. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, much like a dream. When you're in a dream, you know, you really don't have that awareness of, oh, you know, you're just in it so much, you don't pay attention to, was that a 2-minute dream, or some dreams feel like I was there, you know, for 3 years. Same kind of thing. They're in a space of no time and space. These physical bodies give us time and space, meaning where matter and energy intersect.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah. Okay.
So when you're in that space, when you talk to spirits and you can communicate to them, they might have an articulate response, but they're treating you, they see you as kind of a dream figure. They're not aware that centuries have passed. They don't have anything to base it on. There's no matter. Does that make sense? So when we're in our physical bodies, we can touch things. We're matter. So when we're in astral bodies, or the spirit itself, there's really no matter to it. It's more energy.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because you think, how can someone be doing this in this one space as a ghost for 400 years? But it's like there's no sense of time for them.
Yes.
Very fascinating. Well, thank you so much, Krista.
Thank you.
You know, those are the questions that I have. Is there anything you wanted to add in terms of just anything that would be helpful for people to know?
Well, I think it's important to know that this ability is kicking up. Many of you might have noticed the time is speeding up. Things are happening a lot faster. you might start to have a feeling of you wanting to pursue some kind of healing work, or there's more to life out there. What is the purpose of life? Are there spirits? Is there a heaven and a hell? You know, these questions come up. And by all means explore them, because the other side, so to speak, the non-matter side, is coming through much stronger. We're at a very interesting time, you know, that we can start to be aware of this. So I would recommend not putting yourself in any, you know, fearful situations. Well, some people love that. That's okay. That's okay. But you can approach it very gently. I would suggest, if you're curious about this, calling in a guide or an angel to begin with, and communicating. Some people call it spirit guides. Some people call them healing guides. Others are guardians. Anything of the angelic realm, whatever works for you, and try communicating. And then that's a nice way to open the door, and you'll be able to identify in the event you come, you know, face to face with something. It'll be much easier to articulate and understand and communicate. It's practice.
That's great. That's a wonderful tip, and I like that you mentioned that this is happening more, that the veil is thinner, and so we are having more paranormal activity than we've had before.
Well, interestingly enough, if you look at a lot of the indigenous cultures way before us, this was the norm too. They were very in touch with this. This is where people close to the earth or spirits, where everything that's alive is a spirit. So it's kind of coming into our society more now. There's a lot of healing that needs to happen, and there's people that are going to stick around until that happens.
Wow.
So it's kind of fun.
That's a great perspective. Well, thank you so much,
Thank you so much for
Krista.
having
It's
me.
wonderful. So I will go ahead and post this on my website, healingpowers.net. And if you need more information, I will also post your web address or contact information, which is...
Great. Right now, it's just the email, special K, spirit@gmail.com.
Great. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.